Okay, Steve McKinney here, and I've got Phil. He's back. We're doing 3 of these videos in a row. And Phil, I've got to talk to you about something that's really close to my heart here, is really closing the deal, right? We talked a little bit about, when you pitch an idea, show a problem solution, make sure that person that's watching it, that maybe you're pitching to, can actually get in that, can understand it, can be in that situation so they identify with it. We talked a little bit about filing intellectual property. It's probably important if you think there's going to be, maybe there's some maybe there's revenue here with your idea. Okay. And having access, you mentioned that because of the challenge, the 10G challenge, you have access. So, but what I'm really getting at here, right? As a creative person, as an inventor, how do I get people to say yes? Because there's always this risk, right? There's this risk of what is it going to cost? How much time is it going to be? Does anybody really know it? Is there anything in your mind that you've seen in your career of tipping it over for you? How do you tip it? Is it your team? Is it proof of demand? How do you tip it to get a company to say, yes, we want to go forward with your innovation?
Well, I think one is do your research and understand the company. I can't tell you how many times as the CTO for Hewlett Packard, startups would come in with some new idea, or some lone inventor before they even had a company would come in to pitch. And they hadn't really done the research. They hadn't, you actually spent most of the first couple of meetings educating them about you versus hearing the pitch or the idea. And that's a little bit of a turnoff, right? Because if you're trying to be as open and as available to as many startups, because look, even at HP, when I retired, we were, 240,000 employees, 120 billion in revenue. But my innovation team knew they had to be available to startups, right? So we had just constant meetings listening to new ideas, because you can't do it all your own. You need that outside. But at the same time, you'd want them to do a little bit of that work. Get ready, understand the customer. How is the customer for your idea matched to the customers I'm trying to serve, right? So, if you're coming in and saying, well, I got this really great idea, but it's the customers you don't have, and I'm going to bring you all these new customers, not going to happen. Okay. It's really, where do you align up with what it is an organization or a company already is trying to do, and how you stack value on top of something that they're already making available, I think is an important part to get to that yes. Now, if you have a completely different orthogonal idea, be prepared. It may take years to convince them to kind of swing left a little bit and look at adjacencies for potential opportunities. The other challenge is a lot of people would come in to HP to present, and we may, you don't want to crush somebody's idea, right? So you go back and you kind of say, well, it's kind of interesting, but I'm not quite sure how this is going to fit. And, we need to think about this a little bit, right? And then the inventors would get in the parking lot and they're high-fiving themselves thinking, all I got to do is solve these 2 problems, and I'm going to be installed on 40 million laptops automatically, right? When in reality, they're never going to get a deal. Okay. HP was just being too nice. They weren't being blunt, saying, something, it's not a fit. Interesting idea, but it's not something that we see on the path for HP. That was one of the things I changed at HP was be clear, because somebody could come back in. If someone asked for a second meeting, we'd always say yes. We'd always, we would, yeah, okay, come back in, right? Startup or an inventor would burn all their capital and never get a deal. Okay. Right. So clarity, and ask for clarity. Just tell the person on the other end, like, look, I'm pitching you this idea. All I ask is be clear. Is this something in your radar or not on your radar? Right? Don't want to waste your time. I've got limited capital. I'm looking for a relationship, a partnership. Let's agree to be clear with each other, because otherwise people just be nice and they'll burn up all your capital and they'll burn up all your time. And so I think, the key thing is identify that problem, how your solution solves that problem, and how the problem you've defined matches with the business, the customers, the market that particular company that you're trying to partner with wants to have. One of the biggest challenges with companies, startups, particularly coming to one, like for instance, to come to HP, is they would come in and go, I got this really great idea, and in 5 years, it's going to be worth $50 million. And at HP, it's kind of like, you're missing a digit, to be interesting, because it's just the size and scale. If you have to think about from a standpoint at HP at that time, to grow 8% a year, just to meet Wall Street expectations, 8% a year, HP had to build a Fortune 250 company every year.
Wow. Okay.
You start in January, you got to generate enough new revenue on top of what you're already doing. You got to build a new Fortune 250 company every year. $50 million deals, not all that interesting.
I guess what you're really saying is make sure you really understand who you're pitching to. Make sure you really know their business very, very clearly and know their customers are servicing.
Yep.
Okay.
And don't assume scale is the best approach to achieve it. Don't try to go for the big guys just because of scale. If you got great alignment with them, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But don't think okay, I bagged HP and therefore I.
But they do, Phil. They always go after the biggest player on the block. Why is that? Is that a good strategy?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think there's better partners.
Okay.
Particularly companies that are in the segment that you want to go into that might be kind of a tier 2, they're going to be more hungry for a new idea. They're going to be more flexible. They're going to be more willing to do trials. They're going to be more willing to potentially participate in a funding round. Try to get HP to do a funding round. If you're trying to do a startup, you've got this really great idea. You win your first customer, you're setting up your LLC. You're actually going to build a business around your idea. I think tier 2s, mid-tier kind of size organizations could be a much better partner for you.
Phil, this is so awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, follow Phil. I love what he's talking about. I agree 100%. This guy knows what he's doing. He's been around the block. Phil, thank you very much for coming on InventRightTV.
Thanks for having me.